Hello and welcome to my first podcast on how to prevent school shooting. I'm your host Salman Bazi, and in this episode I will present some ideas on how to prevent further school shootings. We know how to prevent school shootings, and we should stop pretending that there is nothing we can do because we lack the political will to act. We need meaningful action to keep our schools and children safe from such an act. We need to work together to help prevent further school shootings. I personally, as an international student that came to the US 3 years ago, have never faced the fear that one day, during a school day, a person can come into school and start firing his guns on students and staff members. We cannot let risky ideas like arming teacher dominate this podcast. We cannot expect a teacher, in a moment of extreme, to turn into a trained officer. In reality, an untrained armed teacher introduces risk to student safety on a daily basis. Columbine High School was the first high school to witness school shootings, where two seniors, Eric and Dylan, murdered 12 students and one teacher. The event took place in Colorado in 1999. Since Columbine, mass shootings have become increasingly common in America. I was reading a report that was made in 2017 that states that the US makes up less than 5% of the world's population but has 31% of the world's mass shooters. In 2019, in early August, 30 people died in Ohio and Texas in less than 24 hours. Previous to that event, a 19-year-old former student, Nicholas Cruz, opened fire and killed 17 people and injured 17 others in Parkland, Florida. The sad part is that the list goes on and on and on, and the one thing they all have in common is that nothing has changed. March 2020 was the first March in nearly 2 decades without a school shooting happening in a US school across America. This is due to the fact that schools have been forced to shut down to slow down the spread of the coronavirus. The amount of school shootings that is happening in the United States made students believe that one day, eventually, their school is gonna be shot. A Santa Fe high school student said she expected to be shot at one day. She said, and I quote, "It's been happening everywhere. I've always felt it would eventually happen here." This can only confirm the fact that students are no longer feeling safe going to school. And the only way to fix a problem is that we need to realize that there is a problem to fix. The sooner we realize that we have a problem that we need to address and fix, the sooner the problem gets solved. So instead of asking for a moment of silence, let's all ask for a moment of change. Today, I'll present 10 ideas on ways to prevent or slow down further school shootings. The first thing we have to do is that we need to start doing universal background checks. Currently, laws only require background checks from licensed firearms dealers, which means at this point anyone could go in and buy a gun. A research shows that states that require background checks on all gun sales had 35 fewer gun deaths between 2009 and 2012. The second thing we have to do is that we have to ban assault weapons. By doing this, we are keeping highly lethal weapons beyond the reach of students and citizens, which will reduce the amount of people that could die when a mass shootings occur. The third step to reduce further school shootings is that we have to ban high-capacity magazine weapons. By banning high-capacity magazines, it seems very likely that it would reduce the number of students that could be killed during a massacre. Nearly every mass shooting illustrates that large capacity magazine can increase the death toll. And by banning the high capacity magazine, it will simply give us higher chance to stop the shooter, as in he has to reload more frequently. The fourth step we have to do is that we need to increase the school shooting drills. Despite the fact that this seems to not be very efficient, this will help a lot of students learn. This will also teach, not only help, this will teach a lot of students how to react in case a mass shooting occurred in their school. The fifth step is that we need to hire more counselors and school resource officers. Due to the budget cut, many schools have few or no trained school psychologists, social workers, or counselors and staff. These mental health professionals are the society's first line of defense against troubled students, especially with the current increase in depression and anxiety. The sixth proposal is that school has to teach social and emotional skills. Children can learn social skills from everyday interaction with each other. Playtime teaches young people how to control their emotions and recognize others' feelings and how to negotiate. Today, social media has reduced children's opportunities to learn these basic social skills. But social and emotional skills can and should be taught in school as a way to prevent students' violence. Students with more fluent social skills could connect better with others, and they may also be able to recognize troubled peers who need help. The seventh step, and I believe this is the most important step, is that we have to repeal the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, adopted in 1791, gives Americans the right to keep and bear arms. I personally believe as long as citizens and students are able to reach and buy guns and keep guns in their house, there is no way we can stop and prevent school shootings. All the other steps that I mentioned are ways that could slow down school shootings, but we all know for a fact that will never stop school shootings. As long as a citizen or students have the right to own a gun, school shootings chances will always be high. I believe this is very possible and it could be done. If we were able to repeal the 18th Amendment that prohibited alcohol, we are able to repeal the Second Amendment that could save millions of students. Since the Florida shootings, some commentators have called for the Second Amendment to be repealed. Most gun control legislation is ineffective when most Americans have a guaranteed constitutional right to purchase deadly weapons in unlimited quantities. This simply raises the questions that despite all the losses that we faced, why is the Second Amendment not repealed until now? We also have to invest in metal detectors. Most schools, including the school that I went to, does not have a metal detector. The reason that we do not have metal detectors in schools is that experts says that they're too expensive and create a prison-like feeling among students. Because we lack the public funds for high schools, we also lack the security that is needed to keep the students safe and in a safe environment. Any student could simply sneak into a high school without being asked who he is or what is he doing here. It is hard, nearly impossible, to keep an eye and remember almost 2,000 people that goes to the same high school as you. That is why having metal detectors is very important and would provide a safety environment to a lot of students. Despite the fact that I don't fully believe that metal detectors will solve the issue, but it will inform the school when a person enters the school with a gun. The ninth step is that we have to raise awareness. The school shooter is often a student that goes to the same school he decides to shoot. And that kid is often laughed at and mocked, and then he finds or thinks that shooting his peers is the best way to seek revenge. By raising awareness, it could help and teach the students that some people could be different, and we have to accept the fact that they're different. The last step is that we have to support gun violence research. The CDC, the nation's public health agency, has been restricted from conducting the kind of research that will support solutions to reduce gun violence. CDC can track, assess, and develop strategies to prevent gun violence. These 10 ways are the 10 ways I believe will help us stop school shootings. Even if it didn't completely stop school shootings, it will help us reduce the school shooting or the number of school shootings that is taking place in the US per year. Let's all work together to get students back into a learning, safe environment where students feel safe to go to school. All people or most people are affected by this issue, and for that we should all work together to seek change. And as I said in the beginning of the podcast, To solve an issue, we need to realize that we do have an issue, or we do have a real problem that needs to be addressed. Thank you all for listening.